how would you, as VP Education and Democracy, ensure that diversity within the university is celebrated and championed?
All right, cool. I feel that it should be championed a lot more by, there needs to be more engagement within curriculums in particular. I feel like, unfortunately, that we're in a university, but I feel like it's all through a Eurocentric sort of lens, and it's about looking at the diversity of our university and the people who make it, the demographic, and let it represent that. I feel like, again, within faculties and zones, the contributions of the diverse groups of people should be represented in there, whether that be posters or whether that be a particular event, just to actually say that, look, these are a diverse group of people who have also contributed to particular departments.
Yeah, as a straight white male, I'm probably one of the least qualified people to sort of champion diversity, but in terms of what I do to give it a go, essentially would be any cultural festivals, any society is running, any heritage festivals, anything, stuff like that, promote it across university-wide, and just sort of try and encourage more participation from the smaller minorities of the groups.
I am the only female running for this position, and I do think that is a reflection of the fact that we do need to reach out to a wider demographic of students. So that has been on my mind a lot in the past couple of weeks, and it's something that I'd like to look into to make sure that every student from every gender, every cultural background or sort of social background is engaged with the union. How that can be done is a very big job, but it would be about putting together events and publicity that's tailored to specific groups and making sure that every demographic of student is being reached out to, and that they are made familiar with the work that's done, and trying to get them engaged and working with the union throughout the year.
I think it would be best to speak to those demographics that aren't as demographic groups that aren't as involved in the union or the university, and find out why they don't feel that they can get involved, and then try and tackle it through that. I don't know myself why they don't feel invited or welcome to get involved in any activities. So I would have to do a lot more research on that.
Brilliant, thank you. Next question. Yeah, right at the back first. Yeah.
So in a hypothetical situation, if the university was to make a drastic change, so for example, they upped international students' tuition fees by £5,000, so that was the example, how would you go around tackling that without damaging our relationship with the university and what they think of us?
Obviously, if they were to suddenly hike tuition fees for the international students, the first sort of question I'd ask them is, why did they feel it was necessary? And basically just try and get their justifications for it. And if I felt it wasn't something that they should be doing, I'm not entirely sure what the actual current fee is for international students off the top of my head, but if I didn't feel that they could justify the expense properly, I would sort of explain to them why I didn't agree with it, why I think it would be unfair for people who have to travel up to halfway around the world, in some cases, to study here, to just make them pay more for what I would think to be probably insignificant enough reasons. So essentially I'd sort of politely suggest that they not do what they're doing.
At the moment, international students, I believe, pay about £12,000, which is £3,000 more than what home students pay. Even now, there is that gap, which obviously there may be explanations for, but I'm not personally aware of them at the moment. I think it would come down to asking the university why there is that gap, why they feel the need to ask international students for more money, because it is a mutual relationship. International students bring a lot of diversity and a lot of benefits to the university life here, and we all as home students benefit from that. So it will be about hearing the voices of those international students, what it means to them, what impact that's going to have on their education and on their welfare, and then collating that and taking it back to the university with evidence and saying, this is the impact it's going to have. why is it being done, how can we justify what's being done in view of the impact that it's going to have on the students that you are asking extra money from.
Yeah, I think that was pretty much covered. You need to figure out why this is happening. Is it something that's just happening here, or is it happening across the country? Do we tackle it as just our union, or do we get together with other unions and the NUS to tackle this issue? As Isla said, just working out the exact effects that that change will have on the students themselves and the university and the community of Portsmouth. Just acting as a mediator, trying to listen to all the voices rather than just taking a kind of just one approach and not listening to anyone else.
So in response to that, if the value was there, if there was £5,000 more value, I think it would be justified. I don't even think they're getting enough value for the £12,000 they pay now, seeing as only half of them get a good degree anyway. But I would say that it would be important to also, within my position, to actually raise up to whoever's in charge to actually say, to try and add more value to the course and the degree and the education that they're getting. Otherwise, I would actually have to say that I don't agree with it.
Brilliant. Have another question yet?
Yeah, it's a simple question. Just why do you think that you would be good for the role?
I think in the past 3 years I've been involved with every aspect of university life, and I've had extracurricular roles that would have given me skills that I can bring to the role. So in this academic year I've held a position within the union as the good governance officer. I've had a lot of insight into the workings of the union from a democratic viewpoint, how democracy is put into action in the union. Doing that from sort of taking a step back and doing that as an observer has allowed me to see where things work and where things could do with improvement. So I have a lot of ideas and sort of suggestions that I could bring to the role. Additionally, having been a student here for 3 years and being really engaged, being engaged with academic societies, etc., I have been able to sort of hear from all the students on what they would like to see more of and what works best in the university and what needs improvement. So I would have be able to bring those skills and transfer them.
I've been the course rep exec chair for the past 2 years, working extremely close with the 2 vice presidents of education and democracy. So I know what the role is, what I would have to do in order to be successful in the role. I have a lot of experience in university committees. I'm a member of academic council and library committee, so I already have the links with the academic staff in order to tackle any problem, or I would be able to speak to anyone that I would feel is appropriate to speak to. I have been on the student council last year and UAB this year, so I know how the union works as an organisation, all the kind of different committees that there are, and yeah,
Hi, again. So I've been involved in different levels of the uni. So I've been a course rep, which has allowed me to understand like the structure from just like a normal level. I've also been a student officer. So again, being on the UAB, also understanding again the structure of the university. Also being near the sabbatical officers. I've also been a society president as well. So again, that's given me insight of how societies are influential within the university. And I've also sat on the zone as a society exec, again, giving me a lot of insight. And again, I'm a very approachable person. I feel like people can come chat to me after. And I'm someone that can take people's things on board very easily as well.
Like Delapo, I'm also on the SOC exec, so I've been sort of running the democracy officer post for this year. I'm a society president as well, so that's obviously given me, it's just done, I know we're good. I've had some insight as being president as well. and I've been a student staff member now for, this is my second year, I believe, or possibly third. And so at this point, I've basically worked for every department in this building, doing various things, from setting up these events to convince people to join the university, and also typing up the research that the university's been doing, and the union. And so I more or less know how this place works by now, you'd hope. And so if, you know, I know who to talk to, and I quite enjoy getting things done. And when I do join an organisation, I like to know exactly how it works at basically every level. Oh, yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, back to the floor for any questions. Yeah.
Hi, I'm a BAME student officer for this year, and I've come across and encountered a lot of people that feel like the curriculum doesn't quite reflect their culture. What do you propose to do if you were confronted with these issues? Namely, how do you create more of a culturally diverse curriculum so that students feel like they can be themselves and access the curriculum in the way that reflects them and who they are?
I think this would have to be tackled for some kind of a student working group. The students would have to work with, the staff would have to work with the students to work out what it is that they would expect from the course, what they disagree with. I'm personally not in a position to say what the BAME students would want in the curriculum, because I'm white. But I do feel that a wide student consultation would help in that process.
Okay. Personally, I've looked into this, and I feel like it's an issue that has been just blown apart. People haven't looked into because of comments like you said, because you're white. That shouldn't be a justification, to be honest. The unions that have already started doing this, UCL in particular. There's also been the NUS that have also done some surveys, and they've already said that 34% of ethnic minorities that were part of it didn't feel like they could bring their perspective into the course. So it's about getting in campaigns, let people be aware of why these issues affect them, and also working with organisations such as NUS and other unions who have decided to make sure that they are inclusive of ethnic minorities.
Obviously, again, as the white guy on the table, these sort of issues wouldn't obviously spring to my mind immediately. So although I might take a while to sort of understand what it is exactly that they find to be a bit off, why it's not representing their course, representing their culture on their course or their curriculums, would be a bit more challenging for me. I will obviously give it a go, and if necessary, I'll speak to the relevant student officers, the students who are involved with the complaints, try and sort of set up focus groups across the university to see how widespread the issues are, and then from there, depending on what the issue is, tackle it accordingly. Obviously, it's a wide spectrum of what it could be, so it's a case of nailing it down exactly, finding out what it is that they're hoping to achieve from talking to me, and then seeing about getting it done, basically.
I do think an aspect of this is probably course specific. For example, using law as an example, because I'm a law student, and a student who comes to England to study English law expects to study English law. So there are certain things I don't see how they could be adapted. But what I do think we could work more on is the student experience while at university. So we'd be looking at what the union can do to help students with extracurricular activities, to help them feel more welcomed and more involved within university. But again, as the others have said, it's about hearing the voices of those individual students and what it is specifically that they want to see more of and they want to see changed, and taking those proposals back to the university, back to the heads of schools and heads of faculties to see what can be done and what can be changed.
Brilliant. And we'll move on to our final question now for this question time. So, yep, question down here.
Hi. As a BAME student, I've spoken to a lot of other BAME students who don't feel that the union activities or the union events and education necessarily reflects what they want to do or necessarily cares about whether or not they feel included. So do you think that the University of Portsmouth shows enough concern towards BAME students and towards ethnic minorities and their interests in their education?
No, that's just a given. No, I don't think they do. As you've both seen, as you've heard already, a lot of people. As a BAME student myself, I'm not just here to represent BAME students, but I feel like from what you've heard, people are already saying that because they're not BAME, they shouldn't be able to. They don't know how to represent students, but it's a given for me as a BAME student to represent everybody. So yeah, I think that's it. No, the answer is no.
Again, the answer is most likely no, as if it was all hunky-dory, these sort of questions wouldn't exist. So obviously there is more that the university could do. I'm not entirely sure what it is. It would be quite a substantial project to work out the sort of issues and act on them accordingly, as it always is in this regard, no matter where you are. But obviously it is something that I would endeavour to solve as best as I could.
I do agree that if these questions are being raised, that probably means that no, the answer is no. But it does come down to BAME students engaging with the union, and how that can be done does come down to perhaps the union reaching out to those students more specifically. So I have said this before in answer to one of the other questions, that it's about tailoring any publicity and any communication that goes out to the students. But also, more importantly, I believe, for example, I know not all BAME students are international students. I'm a BAME student and I'm not an international student. But one way that we could tackle this is during the International Student Orientation Weeks, having sort of sessions that introduce the union to the students and what the union does, and getting engaged with those students and being able to hear their voices and being in communication with them, to then be able to take their voices and their views back to the university and get their suggestions implemented.
No, I agree. Again, if the questions are being raised, it's all about talking to students, all about students raising these issues with us. If we don't hear about someone feeling like they're being discriminated, then we can't do anything about it. So it's all about reaching out to those students and to make sure that they feel like they can come and speak to us, not just the VP Education and Democracy, but any other student officer or sabbatical officer. So that's what I would work towards, making sure that they feel included.
Brilliant, right, thank you very much. That is the question time over for Vice President of Education. Democracy. Some more round of applause. So now we move straight on to the candidates for Vice President of Sport. There's 5 candidates running for this position. There are only 3 here tonight. So please can I welcome to the stage Ben Conway, David Hillier and Terry Singh. In that order, please.
So the university's just released their master plan, so we're likely getting more like sports facilities, but at the moment we don't have them. So how would you go about supporting students that wanted to play a sport that we don't have the facilities for?
University, so these conversations are already happening. What the university needs to realise is we're sliding down the Bucks rankings over the years. Unless we make a drastic change, it's going to keep happening. We're just sliding down over the years, and we need to do something. So through my manifesto points, through getting the facilities there, for getting the funding there for students and rewarding students, I believe that's the way to get them more involved so they can see what can actually be done with funding. So with this project that's already being run, the sports strategy that's already being run, they'll be able to see the fruit of their looms when they put the money into it, and then if we need any more, that we can use that as an example.
To me, it's quite key because sports for me is one of the reasons I came to university, to be able to play sports, have my enjoyment. That's how I, when I'm not studying, that's what I want to do, it's how I find my friends. I think it's a great way to really grow and learn disciplines. And therefore I put quite an emphasis on Bucks rankings, and for me, two of my manifesto points is sort of money, sort of in the terms of budget and facilities. I know in terms of rugby that Southampton University instantly get 10 grand from their student union at the beginning of the year, as opposed to our 1,000. They have 5 training sessions a week, we have 1 training session, and it's just simple sort of hindrances like that weaken our teams, and yet we're competing at the same level. So I'd like to be able to spread that across the whole AU, provide everyone the biggest possible opportunity to compete fairly against other universities.
Yeah, if the question is really right, I think it's on vote or sport in general. Okay, my manifesto actually really tends to put more emphasis on how we need to understand sport and take it more and put it more passion on it. Be more passionate about sport, because we all have the innate ability to do these things. It's not something you need to put much effort to do, but it's something you can really do if you really want to do it. So there's not much funding or much resources that is meant to be spent on sports before we tend to indulge in one.
You're right. For me, Bucks is a brilliant tournament. I've competed in it a couple of times previously, and I've won medals at there as well. You know, for us, for our club, it was really important, and I don't feel though the other clubs feel it's that important as well. I think for this role, it's putting that across to the groups, saying how important it is, even possibly improving the level of coaching, bringing coaches from outside, what we did within our club as well. We went to different sites to coach. Yeah, for me, like I said, I think it's a brilliant tournament. I think if the university improved that, it's definitely worthwhile. It's great on the CV.
Perhaps before, any questions?
You've all mentioned clubs and how you want more people to go and compete at Bucks, but I know that for some clubs, that have high running costs, for instance archery, it's very expensive for us to both function as a club within the union and still go to competitions like Bucks. And that might put other smaller clubs off as well. Would you be willing to help them out and possibly subsidise that or find workarounds so they could still compete easily enough and represent the union while maintaining training standards?
Money is a big issue in sport because often facilities or coaching or anything that's previously mentioned always costs more money, and there isn't enough money within University of Portsmouth Sports. I would personally lobby the university to make more money open towards sports instead of funneling it maybe into other channels, and I think it should be done based on the amount of people that actually play sports. Also, part of my manifesto, I want to build an app for the AU, and I would sell advertising space to raise money for the AU, to also not just pay for the app, but to allow the smaller clubs to thrive, because as I've previously mentioned, the bigger clubs are established and they have the money and they can keep ticking over, but it's the smaller clubs that need more support, and there's no reason why they can't become a large established club.
Yeah, for the archery and the box, when you, I think the university is supposed to take every sport seriously. And basically, when I look around the university, it's not all about the archery that's facing a lot of problem. We tend to have other sports as well that's not been recognized as well. We tend to have a problem with chess and Scrabble. In other schools or other states that I've visited, because I'm an international student, sorry for my English, in other states or places that I've visited, we tend to have an issue with sports, and we tend to bridge this gap with ethnic minority,
Right, about the little clubs, I think that the little clubs that you say, I think they're brilliant ways of gaining medals for the university as well. Again, I think it's important to work with those groups, finding out what it is their needs, finding out what we can do to help, and if it is possible, obviously move that forward and give you the best support that's available.
I'm quite glad you brought it up, because that is actually one of the big issues that my manifesto actually looks to challenge. Clubs need funding, clubs need equipment, clubs need funding for competitions and stuff. And through a sponsorship fair was one of my manifesto points, where you bring in local businesses and businesses related to national governing bodies of sports within our AU and within our societies as well. We'll be able to pull some funding into the clubs that way, rather than keep trying and going back to the university. This is another way for clubs to find their own level of funding and put it more in the club's hands itself.
Brilliant. Has anyone got any manifesto-specific questions? No? Okay, right, we'll carry on. Yeah.
What's your position on sport-based societies having equal priority over sport facilities as the AU do?
Sorry about the question. Come again, sorry.
What's your position on sport-based societies having equal priority over facilities that AU clubs do?
AU clubs do?
Yeah.
Okay, I think I'll try to promote a kind of unity within sports by trying to make sure that there are sections are run accordingly within clubs, and students are aware of how these various sports are being run, and not only being made aware during the fairs. As well, I intend to try to bridge the gap, like I keep saying, because I kind of come from the humanity perspective. So in humanities, we tend to promote interaction rather than do with the money.
So just trying to get your question, was it the bigger clubs have better facilities? Is that what you meant by it? No, I just... Yes, please, yeah.
Sorry, get a mic back. It's the clarification.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
What's your position on sport-based societies having equal priority over sport facilities with AU clubs?
It's a good question. It's not one that I've thought about really, so I'm going to miss out on that question, but I'll pass it on to the next gentleman.
Okay, so as I'm sure you're aware, one of the perks of actually being in the athletic union is you do currently get priority over facilities, over sports-based societies. And in my personal opinion, I think that we still need to maintain that. However, I do feel like we need to give more allocation to facilities to all sports in general. At current, as David said, 60% of the sport and rec's allocation times are given up to sports, and I think that should be more. It shouldn't be about making money, it should be about our student experience. We pay £9,000 to come to university, even more for sports clubs and for societies fund entrance membership fees. So we should be given priority over facilities.
It was actually Nick who changed it from 40% university to 60% commercial, swapped it around. So I thought lobbying sport and rec won't necessarily be the most successful avenue. So maybe we need to change the criteria for joining the AU so everyone can have priority. And then I want to conduct a review as part of my facilities, like manifesto point, in order to find out what clubs need more and which ones can, have got a lot of facilities and compared to others, and sort of actually find a balance. Because giving a blanket amount to every club or society is not the most effective way to do it. It might be the most fair, but it doesn't necessarily get the best out of each society. And therefore I think we need to think about the allocations and actually try and adjust them, and also keep lobbying the university to provide more sports facilities in the future.
Brilliant. Back out to the floor. Yeah, Mary.
As VP Sport, you're going to have to help the AU organize events such as Tour and Varsity, which are known to be big drinking events. What would you do to make them more sport-oriented, and how would you ensure safety?
To get away from that and trying to discourage that, and by not going out and publicising that we'd be hosting. I don't know if you saw this year, we didn't publicise loads that Eskimo are hosting an after party. Small little things like that is just one thing that I'll try and distance myself and make sport the priority over this drinking culture.
As Ben has already mentioned, obviously Tour this year was pulled out, and I know because I can only speak from my personal experiences, rugby, the committee, we sat down and had a good discussion about whether we were going to go on tour or not. And eventually we decided yes, but only if certain placement was involved. In terms of RST, I'd like to maybe see it take over a couple of days to get away from the fact it's one big event, and therefore people would go really hard on it. But we are adults, and I'd like to see a more adult approach to it as students and be more open with them, because I think you'll get more responsibility from that. So instead of people hiding drinks in their bags and things, if you're more open and it breeds responsibility from adults, and I think that's what university is about. Furthermore, I think, it is a celebration of sports. You don't necessarily want to put a complete ban on drinking, but maybe just get to a stage where people are acting more responsibly in adults and have a policy where you can, remove people without any problems.
Yeah, my opinion today is actually I'm not a fan of drinking, but I still feel drinking is a part of sharing, and that's a belief that it tends to bring people together, and that's what I stand for. For that, I think that's what I stand for. So, and if to promote the sport in the school and making it better, if it's going to bring all about tolerance and understanding between one another within sports, then it's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Move on from the floor.
Obviously, as VP Sport, you'll be working quite close with the AU. What do you think has gone well for the AU this year? What do you think hasn't gone so well for them?
I'm quite glad you asked that. As Athletic Union Chair, I can see directly what has gone well. I've got a fantastic exec this year. We've filled all the positions well. We, this year, have for the first time incorporated the mentoring scheme into the Athletic Union. I don't know if you guys know, but what we have done this year is every sports club within the AU has been allocated a member of the exec as a mentor and a first point of contact. So I think that's one of the big things to sing about, and as well as that, for the AU, for AU wins this year, I'd say that this year we've brought back the rewards and recognition that's necessary with Team of the Week and Sports Person of the Week, and something that I definitely look to with my manifesto point to review reward system to draw upon and build upon.
Just building on what Ben said, I've had experience in the mentoring system, and I think it's been very successful, because a lot of the time it's student-led clubs, but a lot of the time people have never had any experience of leading anything before, and the mentors are perfectly placed as students themselves to sort of guide committees and clubs in the right direction and give them hints and advice and help alleviate the pressure upon sort of, like, say, the Student Opportunity Centre. However, I do feel a big issue within the AU is that it's all individual clubs, and we don't celebrate the AU as one whole thing. We see sometimes, it might pop up on Facebook or it might pop up on the website, which is often, but not many people actually see it. And I'd like to see a bigger cohesion within the actual AU. And as part of my app, I'd have league positions and news flashes and things like that, so people can actually see what's going on else in other clubs and societies.
Yeah, I think promotion of the Athletic Union in Portsmouth will be the best thing. Actually, I've not stayed long in here to really witness a lot, but the few I've seen, I've been engaged in a lot of Athletic Union, athletic activities, and it's been going fine. So I intend to improve on what others have done and try to build upon that to really see that we attain the heights that is needed to be the best in athletics. Thanks.
Right, yeah, I would kind of agree with what David said there. I think the sports groups are quite separated. They don't work together in cohesion. Maybe we can do something better than that. Obviously, a league table, something like that, so people can see where they are, and create a bit of healthy competition to help improve sports at the university.
Yeah, brilliant. Did everyone on the floor hear that question? Sorry, can we just get to the mic on now?
So, if elected into office, what will you do to encourage disabled students to participate in sports?
I've spent a lot of my time coaching, not just university but before I came, and I've always, the one thing that ever stuck with me was don't look at disabled students, look at able students. So what can that disabled person actually do? Don't exclude them from things, include them with everything they possibly can. And the best people to know what they can do is themselves. They're fully aware of what they're able to do. And I think it's about having that open communication, have that conversation with them and finding out what they can do, what we can do to support them, be it within existing clubs or setting up new clubs if they so wish. But again, they know what they want, and it's about having that communication and then facilitating and helping them grow into what they want.
Yeah, actually, when talking about disabilities and vulnerability, it tends to be something I tend to focus on, because I still feel no one is faced with any challenge of disability if given the power to act and show that you're able to do something. And I believe if everyone has the ability to perform in every jurisdiction in which you find yourself. I was once a student who was faced with a lot of learning disability, but with sport, I tend to create more efficiency by building my brain through sports, and it helped me very much. So if given the opportunity, I think sporting is going to help break the barrier between disability and making them able people. Thank you.
Well, yeah, for me, my sport is boxing. In that sport, you wouldn't think the disabled people in there, but in terms of coaching now, we've seen an increase in disabled people coming into the sport of boxing, and the ABO are actually trying to push that through. So we've seen a benefit of that. I've seen an increase of more disabled people coming to the sport, and I think it's just understanding their needs. They just need that little bit of push, a little bit of confidence to get involved in the sports, and we can obviously help them definitely do that, talking to them and listening to them about their requirements.
Yeah, I think regardless of whether you're disabled, your sexual orientation, your gender, your age, your race, everyone is entitled to sport and everyone's entitled to enjoy sport. One of the things we're good at this university and this union, is running campaigns like the Rainbow Laces campaign to raise awareness of LGBT+ in sport. So I'd suggest looking at backing a campaign and introducing a campaign within the union to kind of just increase inclusivity within this union.
Yeah, brilliant. Another question?
Sorry, Eskimo sponsors many AU clubs, and there was a situation this year when a lot of clubs just re-signed their contract without actually seeing what was on it. My question is, what are your views on them as a sponsor, and as a student union, should we affiliate with them?
Yeah, sorry, can you come again? I don't understand your question. Sorry, can you come again?
Yeah, of course. So it's an Eskimo sponsors many AU clubs, and there was a situation this year where many clubs just signed, the new committee came in and repeated their contract with them. Do you think we should, clubs should be sponsored by them, and should we affiliate with them as a student union?
Yeah, generally, I am not aware of any club being sponsoring anyone or being sponsored by anyone. But I feel sport is something you should love. Sport is not something you should be paid for. So I don't see a reason why anyone gets paid or have a problem being paid or something. So if you love sport, it helps you, and you should feel love for it and feel the happiness and joy in doing what you're doing. it helps you, not getting paid for it, please. Thanks.
Eskimo, I'm not sure who they are or what they are, but I'm from Portsmouth. You know, I would try and get more sponsors from the local community, people from in the city, from clubs and stuff like that, and get them to sponsor the club, move the clubs forward. I think that's a benefit I can definitely bring.
Okay, as a president of a club that's actually sponsored by Eskimo, I see the need for them, but I feel like the lack of sponsors around Portsmouth has made them a safety net. We go back to them, we need money, and I don't think that coincides with the current direction that this union's going towards, with the whole getting away from the encouraging of like irresponsible drinking. So through the introduction of my sponsors fair, I try and aim to get as many clubs out of that safety net as possible. Obviously it's completely up to the club who they want to sponsor them, but I just feel like as a sponsor they don't follow the direction that we're looking to go as a union.
Often the contracts are signed based on the president of a certain club, and they don't actually share necessarily with the committee because it's over the summer when they have to sign them. Now, it could be the first time they've ever encountered a business contract, and therefore I'd improve the mentoring system more, to like help educate people and make sure they understand fully what they're signing on. With Eskimo in particular, often it is a case that you have to join in on a Wednesday night, and I know for certain clubs their funding got cut this year because they didn't meet certain targets last year in terms of getting people there on Wednesdays. Now, with the whole irresponsible drinking, lad culture, it seems obvious to try and disassociate ourselves with Eskimo. The issue is the SU are so hand in hand with Eskimo, and until we can find another source of money, it's the best of a bad situation. But again, it always comes back down to money, is that the problem is money always talks, and until we find it, we've got to make the best of what we can.
Brilliant. Yep. Do you have a mic going on?
Terry, your manifestos talk specifically about including women into more sports. To all of you, as a male panel sat in front of me, what do you think you can actually do to get more women involved?
Well, for me, I'm doing my Masters in Sports Management this year, and my project is actually on women's sport, getting more women into sport, the kind of male kind of dominant sport environment in there. After speaking with women around the university as well, from ethnic minorities mainly, they feel intimidated by going to sports clubs, going to sports, you know, mixing in with people. So I think a way forward could be creating women's only classes in certain sports. I think that's quite important for people who do feel comfortable in that sort of environment. Yeah, I think probably moving way forward until they have that confidence then to mix in with the wider group.
Okay, so first of all, I want to say that I think inclusivity shouldn't be a manifesto point. I think it should be something that's entailed within the job. I'm not sure if the other candidates or yourself are aware that our This Girl Can campaign has actually been used as an example throughout students' unions across the UK. So it's already something that we're doing, it's already something that I back and put my effort into, it's something that's already set up. So in terms of what I would do to further that, I would just support the campaign as much as I can.
This year, working with Sport and Rec, I've been a sport activator, and that is actively trying to find people who aren't normally engaged within sport become engaged and happy and enjoy and broaden their experience. And I will openly admit, I have struggled to engage female participants. But what I found is because the message I'm necessarily giving to them isn't the message they're receiving, so it's often a line of communication, and I often found it's normally best to come from within the female demographic themselves and actually find out what they want. So rather than just blanket the clubs over them and decide, like, that's what you want, you need to find out what they want, what they would do to engage, and often it's because they're intimidated by certain situations. And if people miss Freshers Fair, which is normally the best situation to be able to talk face to face and get over that intimidation, then you need to have other things. And with the app, I feel like it would be able to highlight where people can go and do with training clubs and whatnot.
Yeah, I don't think my own issue has to do with demographic, because I tend to bring people together, and to improve sport, I feel I'll tend to look at almost varieties of different varieties of sports, not in one focusing on one sport particularly, and I intend to bring other sports that will be more enticing, such as chess, that can improve the cognitive ability of an individual, so you can think critically, and that can entice you to be able to indulge in a particular sport. That's if you're the kind of shy type that doesn't want to engage in active sport. A lot of people have other issues with regards to social exclusion, something like that.
So we'll move on to our final question for this question time. No, there's no questions, we'll finish early. Right, okay, right, so can we have a round of applause for our candidates?